Dramily.com, unlimited drama series.
The fever hit me like a freight train at 3 in the morning. And by the time Kelsey found me shivering on the bathroom floor, I already knew what she was going to say. Really, Alex? Again, I'm Alex Hanley, 38 years old, and I have the immune system of a 90-year-old with a death wish. Autoimmune disorder with a side of chronic bone infections. It's like winning the lottery, except instead of money, you get to spend random weeks feeling like you've been hit by a truck driven by your own white blood cells. I can't control when it flares up, I managed through chattering teeth. The tile was cold against my cheek, but moving seemed impossible. Kelsey stood in the doorway, wearing her pink silk pajamas, arms crossed, looking like she was watching a particularly disappointing movie. You know what? Fine. I'll call Dr. Surrey. But I'm not missing Sarah's dinner party tomorrow night because you decided to have another episode. That's my wife, ladies and gentlemen. Florence Nightingale with the compassion of a parking meter. I used to teach high school English before my body decided to stage a full-scale rebellion against itself. Now I freelance as a copywriter, which basically means I write marketing materials for companies that sell things nobody needs while trying not to collapse at my desk. It's the American dream, really. By Thursday, I was functional enough to sit upright for more than 10 minutes, which in my world counts as a complete recovery. Kelsey had already laid out her outfit for Sarah's dinner party, a black dress that cost more than my monthly medication budget. "Are you sure you're up for this?" she asked, but her tone suggested the only acceptable answer was yes. "I'll be fine," I lied, because that's what you do when you're chronically ill and married to someone who treats your disease like a personal inconvenience. Sarah Morrison lived in one of those suburban McMansions, where everything was beige and expensive. She was Kelsey's best friend from college, which meant she was also blonde, successful, and had opinions about everything. Her husband Jake worked in finance and drove a BMW that he washed every Sunday like it was a religious ritual. The dinner party was the usual suburban theater. 6 couples sitting around a table that could seat 12, drinking wine that cost more per bottle than I made in a day, discussing property values and vacation plans to places I'd never afford to visit. "So, Alex," Sarah said, cutting into her perfectly prepared salmon, "Kelsey mentioned you've been having some health issues again." The table went quiet. I could feel everyone's eyes on me. That particular mixture of pity and discomfort that people get when someone mentions illness at a dinner party. "Just a flare-up," I said, "nothing dramatic." "Oh, it was plenty dramatic," Kelsey laughed, taking a sip of her wine. "You should have seen him on the bathroom floor Tuesday night. I thought I was going to have to call an ambulance." More uncomfortable silence. I felt my face burning, but not from fever this time. "The poor thing gets these episodes," Kelsey continued, apparently oblivious to the fact that she was discussing my medical condition like I wasn't sitting right next to her. "Last month, he was down for almost a week. I had to do everything: groceries, cleaning, even had to cancel our anniversary dinner." "That must be so hard for you," said Jennifer Walsh, whose husband Mike owned a successful construction company. The sympathy in her voice was directed entirely at my wife. "You have no idea," Kelsey sighed dramatically. "Sometimes I feel more like a nurse than a wife." I wanted to point out that nurses generally show some compassion for their patients, but I just smiled and nodded like the good little invalid I was supposed to be. The conversation moved on to safer topics: the new shopping center going up on 5th Street, someone's kid getting into Princeton, the usual suburban gossip. I mostly stayed quiet, which wasn't unusual. At these gatherings, I was basically Kelsey's accessory, proof that she was married, and therefore had achieved one of the basic requirements of successful suburban womanhood. After dinner, the men retreated to Jake's home office to look at his new golf clubs, while the women clustered in the living room with their wine glasses. I found myself stuck between Mike Walsh and David Chen, listening to them discuss their latest home improvement projects. "You should come by and see the new deck I'm building," Mike said. "Could use some help if you're feeling up to it." It was a kind offer, but we both knew I wasn't the kind of guy who could spend a weekend doing manual labor without ending up in bed for 3 days afterward. "Maybe when this flare-up completely passes," I said. Right. Kelsey mentioned you've been having a rough time lately." I wondered what exactly Kelsey had mentioned, and to how many people. From the living room, I could hear the women's voices getting louder as the wine took effect. Sarah was telling some story about her neighbor's divorce, and everyone was laughing. Then I heard Kelsey's voice, clearer than the rest. I swear, sometimes I think Alex uses these sick days as an excuse to avoid responsibility. Like last week, he was supposed to help me clean out the garage, but suddenly he's too weak to lift a box. My stomach dropped. I glanced at Mike and David, but they were both suddenly very interested in examining Jake's new driver. I mean, I get that he's sick, Kelsey continued, but sometimes it feels like he's playing it up for sympathy. Like, how convenient that he always gets worse, right when there's work to be done around the house. The room felt like it was spinning, and not from any medical condition. I excused myself and went to the bathroom, where I sat on the toilet lid and tried to process what I'd just heard. My wife thought I was faking my illness. My wife was telling her friends that I was faking my illness. My wife was discussing our private medical situation at dinner parties like it was entertainment. I splashed cold water on my face and looked at myself in Jake's bathroom mirror. I looked exactly like what I was. A sick man trying to pretend he wasn't sick. Married to a woman who thought he was pretending to be sick when he actually was sick. It was like some kind of horrible philosophical paradox. When I came back out, the conversation had moved on to someone's kitchen renovation. Kelsey smiled at me like nothing had happened, like she hadn't just humiliated me in front of our friends. The drive home was quiet. Kelsey scrolled through her phone while I navigated the empty suburban streets, trying to figure out how I felt about what had happened. Angry, definitely. Hurt, obviously. But there was something else. Something I couldn't quite name. Sarah's thinking about getting a pool, Kelsey said as we pulled into our driveway. That's nice. You were quiet tonight. Are you feeling okay? The question was so loaded with irony that I almost laughed. Just tired. Well, try to be more social next time. People are going to think you're antisocial, as opposed to thinking I'm a faker and a malingerer, which apparently was the current narrative. I went to bed that night listening to Kelsey's breathing beside me, wondering when exactly my marriage had become a performance where I was the only one who didn't know my lines. Friday morning brought another fever spike, which meant another day of Kelsey's barely concealed frustration. She brought me toast and orange juice with the enthusiasm of someone fulfilling a court-ordered community service requirement. I'm going to be late tonight, she said, checking her reflection in our bedroom mirror. A girls' night with Sarah and the crew. Okay, I managed. Speaking felt like swallowing glass, which was usually a sign that this flare-up was going to be a bad one. Try not to be too pathetic while I'm gone. She said it with a laugh like it was a joke, but we both knew it wasn't. After she left, I dragged myself to the couch with my laptop and tried to work on a project for a local real estate company. They wanted website copy that made their overpriced condos sound like luxury living instead of expensive boxes, which was exactly the kind of creative challenge that made me question my life choices. Around noon, my phone started buzzing. Text messages from Kelsey, which was unusual. She typically only texted me during the day if she needed me to do something. How are you feeling? Any better? Let me know if you need anything. The sudden concern was suspicious. Kelsey's sympathy usually came with strings attached. By 2 o'clock, the fever had me in that strange twilight state where you're not quite asleep but not really awake either. I was lying on the couch, laptop balanced on my chest, when my phone rang. I fumbled for it, expecting it to be Dr. Suri's office or maybe my mother calling to check on me. Instead, I saw Kelsey's name on the screen. Hello? My voice came out as a croak. Oh, good. You're awake. Listen, I'm at lunch with Sarah, and we were talking about tonight. I might stay over at her place instead of driving home late. Okay, I said, though something in her tone set off alarm bells in my fever-addled brain. You'll be fine by yourself, right? I mean, you're not dying or anything. I'll manage. Great. Love you, bye. She hung up before I could respond. I stared at the phone, trying to figure out why that conversation felt wrong. Maybe it was just the fever making me paranoid. I must have dozed off because the next thing I knew, my phone was ringing again. This time I was so out of it that I answered without looking at the screen. Hello? Hey, it's me. Kelsey's voice, but different somehow. Softer, more intimate. Kelsey? No, silly, it's me. Are you okay to talk? I was confused. It was definitely my wife's voice, but she was talking like she was someone else. Then I heard another voice in the background. A man's voice. Is he listening? No, he's practically unconscious. The fever has him completely out of it. My blood went cold. Kelsey wasn't talking to me. She was talking to someone else, someone who had asked if I was listening, which meant, God, I can't wait to get out of there, Kelsey continued. He's been so pathetic all week, just lying around moaning and groaning like he's dying. Poor baby, the man's voice said, and I could hear the sarcasm dripping through the phone. I'm serious, Bram. Sometimes I think he plays it up just to get attention. Like, I get that he's sick, but does he have to be so dramatic about it? Bram, I knew that name. Brandon Foster, who owned the CrossFit gym downtown. Kelsey had been going to his classes for the past 6 months. Maybe he needs a real man to show him how it's done, Bram said, and they both laughed. I realized what had happened. Kelsey had called me by mistake, probably hit my number instead of Bram's in her contacts. And now I was listening to my wife trash talk me to her. What? Friend? Personal trainer? Lover? The worst part is how he just expects me to take care of him, Kelsey was saying. Like I'm his personal nurse or something. I didn't sign up to be married to an invalid. You deserve so much better than that, Bram said. You're too beautiful, too vibrant to be stuck playing nursemaid to some broken-down teacher. Ex-teacher, Kelsey corrected. He can't even hold down a real job anymore. Do you know how embarrassing it is when people ask what my husband does for work? Oh, he writes marketing copy from home when he's feeling well enough. It's pathetic. Each word was like a physical blow. I wanted to hang up, but I couldn't. It was like watching a car accident. Horrible, but impossible to look away. When are you going to leave him? Bram asked. There was a pause that lasted forever. I don't know, Kelsey finally said. It's complicated. There's the house and his medical bills. Plus, everyone would think I was such a bitch for leaving a sick man. You can't sacrifice your happiness for appearances. I know. It's just, God, sometimes I look at him lying there all weak and helpless, and I feel nothing but disgust. Is that terrible? It's honest, Bram said. You're a passionate woman, Kels. You need a man who can match your energy. Like you? Like me. The sound of kissing came through the phone, and I finally found the strength to hang up. I lay there on the couch, staring at the ceiling, trying to process what I'd just heard. My wife was having an affair. My wife thought I was pathetic. My wife was discussing leaving me with her lover while I lay sick at home. But here's the thing about being chronically ill. You develop a certain resilience. You learn to function through pain, to think clearly even when your body is failing. And right now, despite the fever and the emotional devastation, my mind was working with crystalline clarity. I opened the voice recorder app on my phone and checked the call log. The conversation with Kelsey had lasted 12 minutes, and I'd been connected for 8 of them. But had it actually recorded? I scrolled through my phone settings until I found the automatic call recording feature that I'd enabled months ago for work calls. There it was, a 12-minute recording of Kelsey's accidental call. I played it back, listening to my wife destroy our marriage one cruel word at a time. Every insult, every complaint, every intimate moment with Bram was captured in perfect digital clarity. The fever was making me shaky, but my hands were steady as I saved the recording to 3 different cloud storage accounts. Then, I made backup copies and emailed them to myself. For the first time in days, I smiled. Kelsey came home the next morning around 10, looking slightly hungover and completely unrepentant. How are you feeling? She asked, not making eye contact. Better, I said. And I was. The fever had broken sometime during the night, probably around the time I'd finished making copies of the recording. Good, I'm going to take a shower. She disappeared upstairs, and I heard the water running. While she was washing off her night with Bram, I sat at the kitchen table and planned my next move. The old Alex would have confronted her immediately, probably while crying and begging for an explanation. The old Alex would have demanded to know how long it had been going on, whether she loved him, if there was any chance to save our marriage. But the old Alex had never heard his wife call him pathetic and disgusting to her lover. The old Alex had never been betrayed quite this thoroughly. The new Alex was going to be much more interesting. Sunday morning, Kelsey made pancakes. This was suspicious for two reasons. First, she never cooked breakfast, and second, she'd been trying to get me to eat healthier for months. Pancakes definitely didn't fit the approved invalid diet she'd been pushing. "You seem better," she said, flipping a pancake, with more enthusiasm than she'd shown for anything involving me in recent memory. "Much better." I took a bite. They were actually pretty good.
He texted at 2 a.m. Leave the door unlocked. You left our door unlocked for him?
Once it was
Watch more on Grammarly.com.
Which made them even more suspicious. I was thinking maybe we could do something today, together. It's been a while since we've had quality time. Quality time? Right. More likely she was feeling guilty about her phone conversation with Bram and was trying to ease her conscience. "That sounds nice," I said, because the new Alex was going to be agreeable and unsuspecting until the moment he wasn't. We ended up at the farmer's market downtown, walking between stalls of organic vegetables and artisanal honey, while Kelsey chatted about her week like she hadn't spent Friday night discussing my inadequacies with her personal trainer boyfriend. "Oh, look," she said, stopping at a booth selling handmade soaps. "These would be perfect for your sensitive skin." More guilt. She was practically glowing with it. While she examined soap ingredients, I watched her carefully. She was beautiful. I'd always known that. Blonde hair that she spent a fortune maintaining, green eyes, the kind of figure that made other men look twice when we walked into restaurants. I'd been proud to be married to her, back when I thought she was proud to be married to me. "Earth to Alex," she said, waving a bar of lavender soap under my nose. "What do you think?" "Perfect," I said and meant it. Everything was becoming perfect, in its own twisted way. That afternoon, while Kelsey was at the grocery store, I started my research. Brandon Foster was easy to find online. His gym's website featured dozens of photos of him looking muscular and inspirational. He was handsome in that aggressive, obvious way that some women found irresistible. Married, according to his social media, to a petite brunette named Lisa, who worked as a dental hygienist. I wondered if Lisa knew her husband was sleeping with his clients. I spent the next few days playing the perfect recovering husband. I was attentive without being clingy, helpful without being pathetic, interested in Kelsey's day, without being suspicious. It was like method acting, except the role was man who doesn't know his wife is cheating on him. Meanwhile, I was gathering intelligence. Kelsey's gym schedule was Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 6 p.m. She always came home exactly 90 minutes later, which seemed like a long time for an hour-long class until you factored in the extracurricular activities. Her phone habits had changed too. She used to leave it lying around the house, but now it was always with her, always face down, always on silent. Classic cheater behavior. But the most telling change was in how she treated me. The constant criticism had been replaced by excessive kindness, like she was overcompensating for something. She brought me coffee in bed, asked about my work projects, even suggested we plan a weekend getaway. "Maybe somewhere warm," she said Tuesday night while we watched Netflix. "You always feel better in warm weather." "That sounds expensive," I said, because the old Alex would have worried about money. "Don't worry about that. We can use the credit card. You deserve a vacation after everything you've been through." Everything I'd been through? Like my illness was something that had happened to me, rather than something I was living with every day. But I just smiled and agreed that a vacation sounded wonderful. Wednesday night, she came home from the gym, glowing with what she claimed was endorphins from a particularly good workout. "Bram really pushed us hard tonight," she said, toweling sweat from her hair. "I can barely move." "I'll bet he did." "You should take a hot bath," I suggested. "I'll make dinner." While she soaked upstairs, I went through her gym bag. Her water bottle still had water in it. Strange for someone who'd just finished an intense workout. Her workout clothes were barely damp, but her underwear, which she'd changed before getting in the bath, told a different story. I was past the point of being hurt by the evidence. Now it was just data, pieces of a puzzle I was putting together with the methodical patience of someone who'd spent years dealing with medical mysteries. Thursday, I had lunch with my friend Wes, who'd been my teaching colleague before I got too sick to handle a classroom full of teenagers. "You look better," he said over sandwiches at our usual deli. "More, I don't know, focused. I'm feeling more like myself lately." "Good. You were starting to worry me there for a while. All that stuff about Kelsey not understanding your condition." I'd apparently complained about my marriage more than I'd realized. "Things are better now," I said. "We're communicating more." It wasn't exactly a lie. We were communicating, she just didn't know it was happening. I'm glad to hear that. Marriage is work, especially when you're dealing with health issues. Takes a special kind of person to stick with someone through the tough times. "Yes," I said, it really does." That night, I lay in bed listening to Kelsey breathe beside me and thought about special kinds of people. The kind who stayed when things got difficult. The kind who loved you when you were weak and sick and not particularly attractive. The kind who saw past your limitations to the person you really were. Then I thought about the other kind of person. The kind who mocked your pain behind your back. The kind who saw your illness as an inconvenience and your love as a burden. The kind who found comfort in another man's arms while you lay fevering and alone. I knew which kind of person I'd married, and I was beginning to understand which kind of person I was going to become. Friday morning, I woke up with perfect clarity. No fever, no joint pain, no fog in my head, just the sharp, clean feeling of a man who knew exactly what he was going to do. Kelsey was already up, getting ready for work. She stood at the bathroom mirror applying mascara with the concentration of a surgeon. "I might be late tonight," she said without looking at me. "Bram's doing a special class on core strengthening." Sounds intense. Oh, it will be. I watched her reflection in the mirror. She was practically glowing with anticipation, and it wasn't for core strengthening. "Have fun," I said. After she left, I spent the morning preparing. I transferred the recording to a secure folder on my laptop, made additional backups, and practiced what I was going to say. I wanted to get this right. At 3 o'clock, I called Kelsey's office. "Hi, this is Alex Hanley. Is my wife available?" "Oh, hi, Alex. She's in a meeting, but I can take a message. Just tell her I'm feeling much better and I'd like to take her to dinner tonight. Somewhere special." "That's so sweet. I'll let her know." Kelsey called back 20 minutes later. "Dinner? Tonight? I thought we could go to Romano's. We haven't been there since our anniversary." There was a pause. I could practically hear her trying to figure out how to get out of it without seeming suspicious. "That sounds lovely, but I already committed to this class." "Skip it. One night won't kill you." "I can't just not show up, Alex. People are counting on me." People. Singular. One very specific person. "Then I'll come with you." Another pause, longer this time. "What?" "To the gym. I'll come watch your class. I've been feeling so much better, and I'd love to see what you've been working so hard on." You want to come to my gym class?" "Why not? Maybe I'll even join. Bram's always saying exercise is good for people with chronic conditions, right?" When did you talk to Bram?" Interesting question. I haven't. I just meant in general. Fitness professionals always say that. "Right, of course." She was rattled now. "Look, I don't think tonight is a good night for you to come. It's going to be really intense, and you're just getting over a flare-up." "I'm fine, Kelsey. Better than fine. I'm looking forward to meeting this trainer who's been helping my wife get so energized." The silence stretched between us like a wire about to snap. "We'll talk about it when I get home," she finally said. "Great. See you tonight." I spent the rest of the afternoon getting ready. Shower, shave, clean clothes. I wanted to look my best for what was coming. Kelsey got home at 5:30, which was earlier than usual. She looked nervous, which was exactly how I wanted her to look. "About tonight," she started. "I'm really excited about it," I interrupted. "I've been thinking about what you said, about me being more social, more engaged. You're right. I've been letting my condition turn me into a hermit." "Alex." I even looked up the gym online. Very impressive. And Bram seems like quite the success story. Local business owner, married to that pretty dental hygienist. What was her name? Lisa? Kelsey went pale. How do you know about Lisa? It's on the website. They have a whole section about the staff and their families. Very personal touch. I'm sure she's proud of her husband's success. Yes, Kelsey said faintly. I'm sure she is. So what time do we need to leave? She stared at me for a long moment, and I could see her trying to figure out what I knew and how much trouble she was in. The thing is, she said slowly, I think I might be coming down with something. Maybe we should just stay home tonight. You seemed fine this morning. It just hit me. You know how it is. 1 minute you're fine, the next minute you're sick. Yes, I said, I know exactly how that is. We ordered pizza and spent the evening watching television, both of us pretending everything was normal. But I could feel the tension radiating from her, like heat from a furnace. She kept glancing at her phone, probably wondering how to explain her absence to Bram. Around 10 o'clock, she excused herself to take a bath. While the water was running, I heard her talking quietly on the phone. I couldn't make out the words, but the tone was apologetic and urgent. When she came back downstairs, she seemed calmer. Feeling better? I asked. Much better. I think I just needed to relax. Good, because I was thinking we could try again tomorrow for the gym. The color drained from her face again. Tomorrow? Saturday classes are probably less intense, right? More my speed. Alex, I really don't think... Or we could just drop by. Say hello. I'd love to meet this Bram character who's been such a positive influence on you. She was trapped, and we both knew it. If she kept making excuses, I'd get suspicious. Or at least, I'd act suspicious. And if she agreed, she'd have to face her husband and her lover in the same room. Let me check the schedule, she said weakly. That night, I lay awake listening to her toss and turn beside me. Around 2 a.m., I heard her get up and go to the bathroom. The light stayed on for a long time, and when she came back to bed, I could tell she'd been crying. I almost felt sorry for her. Saturday morning, Kelsey tried one more time to get out of it. I've been thinking, she said over coffee, maybe you should ease back into exercise more gradually. Start with walks, maybe some light yoga at home. I appreciate your concern, I said, but I think I'm ready for something more challenging. Besides, I want to see what I've been missing, what you've been missing. All these months, you've been going to this gym, working with this trainer, becoming this new version of yourself. I want to be part of that. She looked like she was going to be sick. Alex, there's something I need to tell you. Here it comes, I thought. The confession, the tears, the explanation about how it just happened, how she never meant for it to go this far, how sorry she was. But I wasn't ready for sorry yet. What is it? I asked innocently. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. I think we should talk to someone, a counselor, about our marriage. Not what I'd expected. Why? I thought things were going well. They are, it's just... We've been through a lot with your health issues, and I think it might help to have someone neutral to talk to. If you think it would help, I said. But let's not let that stop us from having fun today. Come on, let's go meet your trainer. The drive to the gym was silent, except for the GPS directions. Kelsey sat rigid in the passenger seat, staring out the window like she was heading to her own execution. Foster's Fitness was in a converted warehouse downtown, all exposed brick and industrial lighting. Through the windows, I could see people lifting weights and running on treadmills, with the grim determination of the professionally healthy. Maybe we should have called first, Kelsey said as we sat in the parking lot. It's fine. We're just dropping by. Inside, the gym was loud with clanging weights and aggressive music. The smell of sweat and rubber flooring filled the air. Behind the front desk sat a young woman with perfect abs and a spray tan. Hi, Kelsey, she chirped. You're early today. Actually, this is my husband, Alex. Oh my God, hi, I'm Brittany. Kelsey talks about you all the time. I wondered what exactly Kelsey had been saying. Is Bram around? Kelsey asked, and I could hear the strain in her voice. He's in the back with a client. Want me to get him? Before Kelsey could answer, a man emerged from the weight room. He was exactly what I'd expected. Tall, muscular, with the kind of confident swagger that came from being physically superior to most other men. His eyes found Kelsey immediately, then shifted to me with obvious surprise. Kelsey, he said, his voice carefully neutral. What brings you in today? Bram, this is my husband, Alex. Alex, this is Bram Foster. We shook hands. His grip was firm, probably firmer than necessary. Mine was steady, which seemed to surprise him. Nice to meet you, I said. I've heard so much about you. Likewise, he said, though clearly he hadn't heard nearly enough. Alex is thinking about starting a fitness program, Kelsey said quickly. I thought maybe you could show him around, talk about what might work for someone with his condition. What condition is that? Bram asked. Autoimmune disorder, chronic fatigue, joint pain, the occasional fever that leaves me practically unconscious. I smiled pleasantly. But I'm feeling much better lately. Much more energetic. Something flickered in Bram's eyes. Recognition, maybe, or concern. Well, he said, we'd need to start slow. Maybe some light cardio, basic strength training. Actually, I said, I was hoping to try one of your classes. Kelsey's always talking about how intense they are, how much they challenge her. I'd love to see what she's been experiencing. The two of them exchanged a look that lasted about a second too long. The classes might be too advanced, Bram said. We really push people to their limits. I'm sure you do, I said. But I think I'm stronger than I look. And that's when I knew he understood that we weren't really talking about exercise anymore.